Today we're talking about women's favorite topic, comparison. More specifically, what is envy and what is jealousy? Why do we feel these emotions? And how can you stop comparing yourself with others? So let's start by clarifying the difference between envy and jealousy. Envy and jealousy are often used interchangeably, but they actually have slightly different meanings. Envy refers to the desire to have something that someone else has. It's a feeling of discontent or resentment that arises when you see someone else enjoying something that you don't have. Jealousy, on the other hand, is a feeling of anxiety driven by fear and insecurity that arises when you think someone might take something away from you. Jealousy is often related to relationships and can involve feelings of possessiveness, protectiveness, or fear of betrayal. In general, envy is about wanting what someone else has, while jealousy is about fearing that you might lose something that you already have. Here are a few quick examples to illustrate better the difference between envy and jealousy. If you see someone with a new car that you really want, you might feel envious of them. If you see your partner flirting with someone else, you might feel jealous because you fear that they might leave you for that person. If you see a friend getting that job promotion that you also wanted, you might feel envious of their success. Or if you see someone with a lot of friends and social connections, you might feel envious of their popularity. However, if that person is your friend, then you might feel jealous if you feel threatened by the attention or affection that they're giving to someone else. Now, you may be wondering, why do we feel envy or jealousy? We feel envy or jealousy because we conflate external circumstances with our worth. We compare. In fact, comparison is a key component of envy and jealousy. When we feel envious, we often compare ourselves to others and focus on the things that we don't have or the things that we wish we had. And this can lead to feelings of inadequacy or discontent. Comparison highlights the ways in which other people seem to be doing better than us. For example, if you see someone who has a successful career, a happy family, or a wealthy lifestyle, you may feel envious of their perceived good fortune and compare your life to theirs, which traps your attention on the things that you lack. There are many reasons why we compare ourselves to others. First, as social animals, how we gauge where we fit in and how we measure up to our peers is by comparing ourselves to them. This feedback is a way of evaluating our own status and standing within the group. We also use comparison as a way of boosting our own self-esteem. If we feel uncertain about ourselves or our abilities, we might compare ourselves to others in an attempt to feel better about ourselves. It's a way for us to validate our own individuality, to rectify our perception of our own worth to the detriment of someone else's. Another way we use comparison is to motivate ourselves. If we see someone who is doing well in a particular area, we might compare ourselves to them and use their success as inspiration and guidance to improve ourselves. While comparison can be seen as very helpful in some cases, it can also lead to unpleasant emotions and a distorted view of reality. Because when you compare yourself to others, you're essentially using the circumstances of someone else's life as a weapon to beat yourself up. However, how they look or whatever they have has nothing to do with their worth. Nothing about what anyone has in their life has to do with how worthy they are. And it definitely has nothing to do with how worthy you are. You are the one making their successful business or their engagement ring or their fit body mean something about how worthy they are. You are the one wanting whatever they have because you believe that having it means that you would be happier, that you would be more worthy, or that you would feel as good as you imagine they feel. But that's not true. There are people living in what you consider to be appalling conditions that are happier than you are. And there's also people who have everything that you could ever imagine wanting in life, who are absolutely miserable. Now, some say that comparison is a natural part of the ego's functioning, but there's nothing natural about how we go about it. Whatever is happening in your life depends on the meaning you're giving to it. That meaning requires contrast, and that distinction is, by default, a comparison. Not happy? What makes you say that? Well, I'm not happy because I don't have this, or I'm not like that, or I don't feel a certain way. Comparison is a learned behavior, a social and cultural hierarchy of expectations and messages that tells us what is right, what is valid, what to choose, what is valuable, and who is worth of getting it. Our desire for approval and recognition makes us lose trust in our own self-worth. And since maintaining the status quo relies on our ability to feed this competitive narrative, we never really learn to rely on ourselves and distrust our ability to make our own choices. What is natural is to view comparison as an internal feedback that informs our own sense of identity and purpose, and doesn't require to seek validation from the external world. Now, having been programmed to let the outside world dictate our worth means that trusting ourselves can be a challenge, especially if we have a history of self-doubt and have experienced situations that have shaken our confidence. However, build self-trust is an important step in developing a healthy and positive sense of self. So, how can you tap into that inner wisdom? If you want to stop comparing yourself to others, here are a few strategies that can help. And the first one is to practice gratitude. Focusing on the things that you have can help you shift your focus away from comparison and towards appreciation. Make a list of the things that you are grateful for on a regular basis, and use it to cultivate an attitude of gratitude towards your own life and circumstances. Now, if you already have that voice in your head saying that this is a waste of time, then take it as a cue to work on your negative self-talk. Comparison can amplify our inner critic, emphasizing the gap between what we think we are and who we think we're supposed to be. To work on your inner critic, watch our video on self-criticism. For example, envy can lead to feelings of anger, resentment, frustration, sadness, hopelessness, and depression. You might feel upset or unhappy when you see someone else enjoying something that you don't have, or achieving the things that you want. And you will feel even worse if you believe that you don't deserve it. Jealousy, on the other hand, can lead to stress and anxiety, particularly if you feel like someone else might take away something from you that you value. And speaking of value, set your own journey. Rather than comparing yourself to others, try to focus on your own well-being, your goals, and aspirations. This can help you stay motivated and focus on your own progress, rather than getting caught up by the achievements of others. After all, the only person you should try to be better than is who you were yesterday. You may not always be exactly where you want to be, but chances are you're not where you used to be either. So remember to pause and celebrate your own achievements. Take time to recognize your dedication and accomplishments, no matter how small they may seem. Reflect on what you've learned over the past few weeks, how challenging it was, and how you would approach it differently given what you know now. This can help you boost your confidence and self-esteem because your energy is no longer focused on constantly comparing yourself to others. Be mindful that other person's highlight reels are just that, highlights, snapshots of their best moments. Also, don't compare your beginning with someone else's middle. These two types of comparisons are very common, and they rely on how forgetful we are in recognizing that everyone has their own struggles and challenges. So focus on your own journey rather than constantly comparing yourself to others. And finally, seek out supportive relationships. Surround yourself with people who, much like you, are focused on their own journey rather than those who are constantly criticizing, judging, and gossiping about other people's lives, because these people will be more accepting and supportive of your own self-discovery. Remember that you are unique and deserving of love and respect, and by following these strategies, you will reduce the tendency to compare yourself to others because your focus will be on cultivating an attitude of self-acceptance and self-worth. It may take time and effort to change this habit, but as Baz Luhrmann once said, the race is long, and in the end, it's only with yourself. We'll see you next week.